Welcome, why, hey. Chronic, left, right, that's come, left, right, hey. Ooh, yeah, boy.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Peace to the righteous gods and Nirvanian goddesses. It's your homeboy Cosmon Cal checking back in from Etheria down here in Ooze. I'm about to slip off these moon boots, man, real quick. You dig what I'm talking about? Get to a quick work. Something I just wanted to bring forward real quick. But before we do that, let's let me show you something a little quick. Let me show you something. Share my screen with you guys. And y'all let me know if y'all can hear this. Y'all let me know if everything is okay and that y'all can hear me. You know what I mean? Throw me a 1 in the chat before I get to playing this real quick. Y'all let me know. Can y'all hear me? Throw your boy a 1 in the chat real quick. Throw me a 1 in the chat real quick if y'all can hear me. It's your boy Cosmonian. Okay, we got it coming in. Let's see. This lesson, right, is Jehovah Chronicles number 41. We going fast, y'all. We going fast. You know, a lot of things didn't settle down, so y'all be seeing a lot of this information come out more regularly. For me personally, you dig what I'm talking about? Got some things in order, so freed up some time. So, you know, your boy gonna be coming with them Jaja lessons, breaking this thing down. As always, you dig what I'm saying? I'm here to balance all balances and check all checks, because you know what happens next with the butterfly vortex. And this is the chastisement of the false gods. Many who are in religion have no clue that their God is a false god. And even more so, they have no clue that the God of their chosen religion, who claims to be the creator, especially in this time and era, Luamang, aka Christ, Chisa, aka Brahma, and Kabbalactus, aka Buddha, also along with Thoth Gabriel or Jibril, aka Allah of the Islamic faith. All their gods have been to hell and are now working and redeeming to crush their own religious ideologies that they built up for themselves. So one of the major ideals is that has been going on is that the false gods have inspired the scientists and philosophers who come through the line of the creator. You dig what I'm talking about? Who are bringing these great inventions and understandings to the world. In recent times, people like Tesla, you know what I mean, have been not only disbelieved and called kooks and pseudo. They actually were right on point, and it is through religious ideologies that people were inspired to, in the end of the day, harm these people. You'll see that many of the greatest inventors or people who were given the title of reinventing a thing went through tragic deaths. You know what I mean? So it comes as a surprise when you find out that in the chastisement of the four false gods, which comes in the 1840s of our common era, before the Ark of Cosmos begins. It comes as a surprise when true God lets you know that he is chastising and applying judgment on these four false gods for what they've commonly done. But let's get into this video real quick. This is about one of the religious ideologies that are being pumped today by the false god of Catholicism and Christianity. That is flat earth theory. It was portrayed back in the ancient days to keep you dumb. Copernicus, Galileo, many other scientists came out to debunk this, and also debunk the geocentric model where the whole galaxy revolves around the sun. Around the earth. People like Copernicus, Galileo, Pythagoras, many other people who brought this out, all ended with horrible deaths. And some of them were seen as heretics, and their works banned and given life sentences, if not killed. But all were definitely silenced. True God reveals to us that is the work of the false gods. So let's get into one of these theories being pumped by the four false gods today. Yeah, let's break it down real quick, y'all. This is debunking flat earth theory.
I offered to flat earthers a couple of months ago, and it's been very amusing watching them run around like chickens with their heads cut off, making pathetic response videos where they puff up their chests and bark at each other for hours without actually responding to any of the challenges. Memorizing the names of logical fallacies and shouting them at random sure seems like a lot of fun, but it's not a working map or a model that shows the seasons with night and day or a legitimate response to anything whatsoever. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that they've thrown in the towel. Of course, there is no need to follow up after such an annihilation, and I did not intend to. But now I find myself quarantined to make my regular content. So, you lucky little... Now, since my 10 challenges made your heads explode, and none of you have the mental capacity to make a map or a model, even at a middle school level, I figured I would dumb it down for you even more. It's very easy to think of things that single-handedly obliterate the flat Earth illusion, like, say, the existence of gravity. But you're so thoroughly science illiterate that you just shout, "Gravity doesn't exist," and pretend that this is not a stupid thing to say. So instead, let's try some proofs that have nothing to do with science at all. There is no challenge. There is no prerequisite information. You just have to listen, acknowledge that the logic is airtight, and then cry yourself to sleep. Are you ready? Here comes one now. What is this object? It's the moon. We've all seen the moon. We've seen it many times. Look at all of these pictures of the moon. What do they have in common? They all show precisely the same features. We all see the same face of the moon. It doesn't change from night to night, and it doesn't change throughout the night. There is no denying this. You can't shout CGI. You can't cry conspiracy. It's the moon. We can all see it with our own eyeballs. It's there, and it always looks like this. Now let's place the moon above a flat disk and let it float around in the little magic circles you like to imagine. If the Earth was flat, would we all see the same face of the moon? Here is someone standing in one spot looking at the moon. They see this. Here is someone standing in a spot looking at the same moon. They see this too. And this person, and this person. You get the idea. So is this possible? No, because that's not how objects work. People on the opposite sides of an object can't see the same face of the object. Go get two of your little buddies and have them stand on opposite sides of you. Can they both see the front of your face at once? No. A spherical moon over a flat Earth is not consistent with reality at all. So is it two same faces? Then anyone but these two people would see a different shape. So no. Is it pointing down like a spotlight? Then it would change shape as it passes. It appears circular directly overhead. Is there any way we can make this work on a flat Earth? No, there is not. So how, pray tell, do all people see the same face of the moon? Because Earth is a sphere and the moon goes around the Earth. It is tidally locked with the Earth, with one face always pointing towards the Earth. That's why everyone sees the same face of the moon. And that's the only way that everyone can see the same face of the moon. And guess what? The direction the moon is pointing even correlates with the observer's latitude. Isn't that something? Whether at the North Pole, South Pole, or anywhere in between, the orientation of the face of the moon that we all see will reveal your latitude on the spherical Earth. Pretty neat, huh? Maybe one day you'll save up enough allowance that you can leave your mom's basement and see the moon from another part of the world. So, my precious little learners, do you now see how pathetically fragile the flat Earth delusion is? Of all the hundreds of individual isolated phenomena that rip it to shreds like it was made of paper mache, some of them don't even require an ounce of scientific knowledge. They just require your brain for 5 full seconds. For today's conclusive proof, we didn't have to talk about physics or astronomy or space travel. We didn't have to do any math. There were no equations for you to misunderstand or numbers for you to lie about. We just did a little bit of critical thinking. So now you can see how people figured out that the Earth is round thousands of years ago before science even existed, because they weren't stupid. They had access to basic logic and were able to comprehend simple proofs like this one, of which there are dozens. Just like you, they didn't know anything about gravity, forces, or cosmology. And just like you, they had no idea what the moon is, or what the sun is, or what the stars are. And they figured it out all the same, because they didn't have to know what these objects are. They just had fully functional brains and a basic capacity for spatial reasoning. So before you go and spew some emoji-laden nonsense in the comments section, take a moment to reflect and admit to yourself that what we went over here today is irrefutable. There is no way around it. Your usual windings of conspiracy and CGI here. There is no science to deny. It's just logic that even a toddler could understand. Wrap your head around this. There truly is no hope for you. So take a deep breath, let them out. Have a nice day. Hey, everyone.
Okay. Let me get this off the screen real quick. All right. So it had been the overall arching ideal of the four false gods, which were before being four false gods, were three or triune or trinity gods, that they would keep man at a certain level of understanding, never allow them to pass physically in their understanding and hence spiritually in their understanding. But let's get right into it. Right. This is the book of Escra. That is the book of Escra. Escra means spiritual death from above. Yeah. Escra means spiritual death from above, but also understand that Escra is a time. It is a 1800 year period, a 1800 year period found within the arc cycle of Bond. During the end of this arc cycle, which is from the time 1553 BC. Oh, let me go into let me open up my let me open up a time, an arc cycle chart. Let me open up an arc cycle chart. Let me find one up in here real quick, y'all. Find me up, and we'll show these time periods. Maybe I should show this one. Okay, I'll show this one. I ain't gonna show the round one. I don't want it to confuse anybody. Okay, so we are talking about the 24th. Now look, just so we know what we're talking about, right? We are in the timetables of prophecy. See, here's the number of the cycles: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. On down. We are currently in the 25th. These are the years of these cycles, right? And this gives the timeline. This is the name of the ark. This is the Etherian angelic being, which you would commonly know as God, who ruled this 6,000 year or 3,000 year span of time, called an ark. Let's say for the first one, this is Wayne. Its first god or Etherian would be Sethantes, and then it gives Sethantes' rank. And then over here, it gives the major overall arching theme of this 3,000 year period, which is set by the understanding in the way of the creator and is put into order by an angelic being, an Etherian, which is commonly called God. Okay, so that's a quick breakdown on that. We are currently now, ask any of your religious teachers or scholars or debaters, what day is it? How many years have passed since the creation of man, and how do you reckon it? Watch the and mealy mouthing you get at that point. Let me see. Am I sharing this? I am not even sharing this. Let me show y'all. Let me share my screen. Not even sharing. Okay. And so we here, as I was showing earlier, I thought I was showing it. These are the cycles. These are the amount of years. This is on the BC to CE timeline, what we would call Gregorian or Julian, Babylonian timeline from BCE to CE time, right? And this is before Cosmon and after Cosmon, or to Cosmon. You dig what I'm talking about? Or after Cosmon, the dates applied from today. We never even had to use a calendar. You know what I mean? Once you really get down with it. But once, to fulfill people's understanding at the time, we used the Gregorian calendar for the most part here in America. So it comes to break down this understanding, and you apply these dates to the starting of the Cosmon era. Boom, simple. Jaja is breaking it down, giving us a way to make sense of these great times and stories that we've been given over time, right? So we're talking about a time in the book of Esdras, which starts 400 years after this date. This is the Ark of Bond, right? 3,400 year time from 1553 BC to 1848 AD. We are talking about a 800 year period, 1800 year period, excuse me, from 1153 BC to roughly 1448 AD. That's 1800 years. Leaves you 400 years short of the full arc cycle. It's interesting, right? That extra 400 years actually leads you to 1848 in the beginning of the Cosmon era. But let's get into what was happening with the false gods, right? During this period, right? Their kingdoms fall on them. They everything is backfiring on them. As you see today, the religions are crumbling. And if not for other false gods to assume the titles after them, commanding man's worship through these religious dogmas, we wouldn't have them today. You can't even pay the youngsters to go to church today. Why? Because they catch the natural vibe. You dig what I'm talking about? There is soon coming a time where no gods, lords or saviors and messiahs will be worshipped. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. Let me see if I can. Owaspy says that in this time, right now that we watching, right? In this time, you're going to be seeing pastors leaving their churches, right? And many of these churches are just going to go into disarray. But many of these pastors, if they really about it, are going to take their churches, change the doctrine to a doctrine of peace and just doing good. Now, the crazy part is all you got to do is Google how many pastors have left their church since 2020. Just say 2020, right? That's all you got to do is see how many of these pastors have left their professions. In the thousands. You dig what I'm talking about? In the thousands. Why? Because these are men who are actually seeking truth. And once you come across this information, many of them never having even read Owaspy come to these conclusions that there are contradictions held within the biblical text that they just can't stomach. You dig what I'm talking about? They know that they're lying to the people, and it don't make sense to them. Some men being spiritually dumb, spiritually imbalanced, unyoked, like they say. You dig what I'm talking about? Will continue in blindness and continue to perpetuate a lie, even though they know they can't even logically make it make sense for themselves. So when you ask them straight questions, you never get a straight answer. So we find here that in part 1, this is Jehovah lesson number 40, Jehovah Chronicles lesson number 41, chastisement of the false gods, part 1. I wanted to bring out some of the things that have been brought out time and time again, and through the inspiration of the false gods, they inspire man to kill these people. You dig what I'm talking about? And we're gonna look at some historical instances of this of this killing. You know, God's mind ain't gonna sit here and talk to you about nothing I can't show to you. Now look at this though. Look at this. Look at this. This is the book of Ezra, chapter 55, right? God is continuing his chastisement of the four false gods. Who are these four false gods? They are Christ. Yep, him coming back in Revelations. Christ, Allah, Buddha, and Brahma. So this is not just one people. This is going on all around the world, right? And at different times since 1553 BC through 1848 AD for sure. Also, we go on to find many of these things because we are in a time of light or a time of information. And we didn't necessarily find the information till we found its impediment. You see what I'm saying? We found a system of holding back information, and behind looking in the system, we actually found truth. Huh? Okay. So context, you got the four false gods in here. This is before they even go to hell. He done went and got these people. They whole everything then collapsed on them. They didn't been in a bad way. Right? So now you got Christ, who is the God that made up Jesus. You got Allah, who is the God of Muhammad. Peace be upon Muhammad too, because they say that brother was one of the most powerful Suis of all time. They said he had a clairvoyance and pure clarity. He could hear and see them gods real good, understandingly. It's just so bad. It's just too bad that he got Thoth Gabriel, aka Jibril, aka Allah. You know what I mean? To lead him on this warrior's campaign of domination of religious ideology. So he got Christ there. He got Allah there. He got Brahma there. He got Buddha there. These, I can imagine them. They in handcuffs. They looking stupid. You dig what I'm talking about? They looking stupid. Sitting in a court. You dig what I'm saying? And true God, you dig what I'm saying, who would have been Lika at the time, right, is giving his judgment. No, he's not even giving the judgment yet. He just berating them. He just telling what they did. Look what we find. This is 55:1. God said, in the name of Jehovah. Now look, this is a great thing right here. God said. So remember, this is God talking about the other four false gods of religion and all gods of religion. This is God speaking. He says, this is, look, in the name of Jehovah. Wait a minute, who is God? That lets you know God and Jehovah ain't the same thing. And Jehovah got more power than God. But what we've been telling you from day one, that God and the Creator are not the same thing. Right? Okay. One worked for the other. How can I find an excuse for your behavior? He talking to the four false gods. True God is saying this to the false God. He's saying, nigga, I don't know how. I can't find a reason in all creation to excuse you niggas. This is what was just said. To paraphrase for anybody who may be listening in and seeing the type of clarity Owaspy is giving on these situations that we ain't even never heard about. But if you start to understand how the heavens work, this makes sense. You keep messing up, you're gonna have to clean up. Now, here is where they getting told about what they did. Right? Verse 2. When my angels taught, right? This is God talking. When my angels taught man how to make a capstan, a screw, a telescope, and a compass, behold, who your emissaries inspired my chosen to be tortured. Who? The four false gods. Their emissaries were inspired by the four false gods to put true gods chosen to death and to be tortured. So let's understand what's happening. He's saying, when I gave angels the okay to go to man and to teach you how to make a capstan. Do y'all know what a capstan is? Most of y'all don't know what a capstan is. And I ain't talking to the face. I'm talking about for the looky-loos who looking in. Don't want to come in and say shalom to their brother. Right? Do you understand what a capstan is? If you understood what a capstan was, you will understand more succinctly how a pyramid could be built. Look, a screw. Now, mind you, this is before and after. This is before and after 1553 BC. So from roughly the time of Esdras, 1153 BC, 400 years after this date, what happens? Esdras happens. Things start being destroyed. Heavenly kingdoms start falling. Bad and heavenly kingdoms are built. Because it is after this time that Baal and Ashtaroth become dominant, along with the false god Buddha and Brahma, who we know as the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. They come in right at the same time and become opposition to each other. The triune gods banged on Baal and Ashtaroth, and vice versa. So from 1153 BC, right? From 1153 BC to 1448, right? The time of Esdras, we have all this work by the false gods being done. That a capstan was being made. Now, many of us understand by 2550, the pyramid, two of the great pyramids was already built. They used the capstan then to help facilitate the building of the pyramids. Right? So that go into the 23rd arc cycle from 3953 BC to 1553 BC. If it happened at 2550 at the building of the pyramids, that's in between a whole nother time. So before this and after this time, these things had been brought to earth, and then the information about it has been repressed, and the people killed off many times just for this understanding, to keep life hard and at a struggle, because these things, what they created, a capstan, a screw, a telescope, and a compass, make life easier. So hence, less no reason to pray to a God for something you could fix for yourself. That's what they didn't want. Right? He said, but look, when they made this, a telescope, a compass, they put them people to death. Now, verse 3, when my angels inspired man to comprehend and announce the glory of the stars and the planets, you put my chosen to death. Through what? Your vindictive angels who are against Jehovah, these things were accomplished. Right? So through the vindictive angels, right, who were against the creator, right, they inspired his chosen to be tortured and put to death by other peoples who praised these four false gods. So let's look at it. So is there a time when a person was bringing out the heliocentric model, and that the earth was revolving around the sun? Huh? Is there a time where we see that these people who are coming out with these great chains of thought being put to death, are being called heretics, thrown in jail, killed for just a different belief? Yeah. Let's look at some of the first. Huh? What about your boy Pythagoras? Pythagoras, who is a very interesting dude, if I might say. I would like everybody to go and read up on Pythagoras. Now there are some things that, you know, that they apply to him, like reincarnation and all that shit, but he never said reincarnation. He never used the word. You dig what I'm talking about? He also didn't say whether it was going to be in a new body or you're going to be in a spirit body. He never made the true distinction, but he said the soul was immortal. This is a very interesting dude, man. I could even put forth. Let me see. Hold on. Because look, not only do we got Pythagoras, we got all his students, like Socrates, right? Who come down off Pythagorean learning. You dig what I'm talking about? What about dudes like Archimedes? Huh? What about Galileo? What about Copernicus? These are well-known instances. For instance, right? Galileo died in his home, right? He was given a life sentence. Dig this. Previously, he was sentenced. This is talking about Galileo. This is what the church did to him. Previously, he was sentenced to life in prison. However, the sentence was commuted to house arrest. Galileo then spent his final years at Villa il Galileo, his home in the city of Arcetri near Florence. Galileo was forbidden from meeting friends or publishing books. Despite this, Galileo still received visitors from all over Europe, including the philosopher Thomas Hobbes and the poet John Milton. In addition, he managed to smuggle manuscripts to New York, discoursed the method, blah, 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 blah. Right? The heliocentric, this is what we want to show. The heliocentric theory by Copernicus, which was 1543. This is 1616 or 1610. And then in 1616, he got the life sentence. 1638, he had another book published. Now look, the heliocentric theory by Copernicus of the workings of the universe challenged the widely accepted belief held by the astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century that placed the Earth at its center of the solar system. In 1616, the Catholic Church declared Copernican theory heretical because it was considered contrary to the church principles and certain Bible texts. Why is this? Why are you showing us this, Cosmo? Why is this so important? Because look what it says. When my angels taught by inspiration, hold on, let's go down one more. Because in truth, my inspiration did not agree with the sacred books put out by the four gods, which you compounded for your own glory. What? When my angels taught man by inspiration that the earth was round instead of flat, you sent spirits of darkness to inspire the death of my philosophers. Because in truth, my inspiration, this is true God telling the false gods, because in truth, my inspiration did not agree with the sacred books which you compounded for your own glory. Do y'all know what a capstan is? Let me show you what a capstan is. This is a capstan. Right? That's a capstan. Smooth, great, massive weights. Right? Watch this. The capstan is a vertical axled rotating machine developed for use on sailing ships to multiply the pulling force of seamen when hauling ropes, cables, and hawsers. That's a hawser, a large rope. The principle is similar to that of the windlass, which has a horizontal axle. Right? So this is like a massive pulley. These were around in Egypt, in the pyramid. So these understandings were coming around again after being smashed by the earth, and we find true God chastising the four false gods because you was killing these people when they was bringing this information. Do y'all know how? Because the information is being brought back today, but at a time it was given, they was trying to say this shit was witchcraft, and they was killing people for it. Look at the screw. How about the screw? Right? Let's go into the screw. This is what a screw is. And I'm starting to also believe that not only what we believe is a modern screw, they held that back. Think about it. if you never had to, if you could screw in and fasten boards to other boards with screws, you would have never used them little wooden pegs that allow for swelling, cracking, dislocation to build ships. You would have just put a nail in there, a screw in there to fasten one board to the next. It'd have been so much easier. But this thing has been lost and refound over and over again. And this is a screw. This is called an Archimedean screw. They give the founding to a screw, which is a thing that actually moves water also. Right? Let me show you what a screw is. The introduction. Can you think of a way to make water run uphill? It's a screw. Without using electricity, the ancient Greeks discovered how to do this. They developed a device called the Archimedes screw to lift water from one location to another. This tool is useful that it is still in this tool is so useful that it is still in widespread use today. In this activity, you will build your own hand power Archimedes screw from simple materials. They was just telling us how to build one, but this is for sure information from the Scientific American. Anybody can go and check into this. This is the Archimedean screw. It allows you to lift. This is one of the magic instances for water. If you can create the suction, it'll just pull water. It'll just remove all the water, and you run it uphill. Right? This has been done. What the Archimedes screw was soon also used to transport water from low-lying areas up to irrigation ditches. The design is so effective that it's still being used today. For instance, it is used to lift wastewater in water treatment plants and even to lift water in some amusement park rides. It's a tool that has never gone out of style. But it was sure trying to be killed off. Look at this. We find Galileo getting a life sentence, being put confined to his home till he died. You dig what I'm talking about? For Copernicus's heliocentric theory, which he had been called a heretic, and the only reason they didn't kill Copernicus was because Copernicus was working with the church. So they just quieted him. But the information still got out. Look at Jaja. All right. So let's go to 3. We're going to step back a minute. When my angels inspired man to comprehend and announce the glory of the stars and the planets, you put my chosen to death. Through your vindictive angels against Jehovah, these things were accomplished. When my angels taught man by inspiration that the earth was round instead of flat, you sent spirits of darkness to inspire the death of my philosophers. So how during the time of Christopher Columbus do we get the idea that the world is flat? If Creator is saying at least since 1153 BC, I was given this information that it wasn't flat. For instance, how did the Egyptians understand that the world was globular. You dig what I'm talking about? But by the time of the Catholic Inquisition, it's flat. And they're talking about corners and the biblical understanding of the world. You dig what I'm talking about? Which seems to paint it as flat. Why? Because the four false gods had tortured people, man, and put them to death. Who was bringing this information for? Okay. We see Galileo. We see Copernicus, but let's go back further. Right? We got Archimedes. Right? We got Archimedes. Let's Archimedes died. He was killed by the Romans. He was killed. Let me see. He was killed by Marcellus. Let me get this down real quick. Let me get to the death of Archimedes. He was killed by the Roman Marcellus. Watch this. And because he wouldn't kill, and because he wouldn't, walk back his understanding of what he was saying, he would die. You know what I mean? He died if the story. Let me see. Let me find this up in here. This guy Archimedes did so much. You know what I mean? Okay, right. Here we go. Archimedes probably spent some time in Egypt early in his career, but he resided for the most part for most of his life in Syracuse, the principal Greek city in Sicily, where he was on intimate terms with King Heron. Archimedes published his works, in the form of correspondence with the principal mathematicians of his time, including the Alexandrian scholars Conon of Samos and Eratosthenes of Cyrene. He played an important role in the defense of Syracuse against the siege laid by the Romans in 213 BC by constructing war machines so effective that they long delayed the capture of the city. When Syracuse eventually fell to the Roman general Marcus Claudius Marcellus, I told you, in the autumn of 212 or spring of 21 BCE, Archimedes was killed in the sack of the city. Now, Marcellus did, I will give him a little credit. You did what I'm talking about. They aspired to kill this nigga for no reason. But Marcellus did, I will give him this credit. He said he regretted that he killed Archimedes because anybody who could build these type of war machines to defend their city had to be a great person, and he regretted that. He at least said that. But we find him being put to death for no reason. What about now? Not only was Socrates, right? Not only was Socrates put to death. You dig what I'm talking about? But so was his teacher, Pythagoras, right? it is said Pythagoras died in there's a couple legends. Died in a house fire. He got out the fire and got caught afterwards and killed. Or he got out the fire and was so aggrieved about his students that he killed himself. So there's actually, and if you killed yourself, we already know what that spirit is, right? But the fact that people set the house afire, one thing for sure happened was that the house that they was in was set on fire because of what he was teaching. Huh? A Greek philosopher and mathematician. What is he doing so heavy that these people would hate him? Plato and Aristotle, right, are influenced by Pythagoras. What happened to Plato? Huh? What happened? What happened to Pythagoras? What happened to Socrates? Look what Socrates said, right? And I listen. This is why I say Pythagoras may have been a faithist, not only for his lack of fear, but so were his students. His lack of fear of death, their belief that they had lived a good life, doing right by people, bringing good inventions that would help people to the world, good ideas that will help people to the world, but the understanding of it is a updated version of just what Pythagoras was teaching. Because we don't have any contemporaries of Pythagoras of his time giving him big props. This man was probably a problem. You dig what I'm talking about? And he believed in the gods. But look at, this is why I say Pythagoras, and hence his followers may have been faithists, man. Because how he carrying himself. Now they about to they done trumped up some charges on Socrates, right? And his homeboy is coming over, to talk to him. Watch this. Among the reminiscence of Socrates, none, as it is to me, is more deserving of record than the counsel he took with himself after being cited to appear before the court. So somebody then trumped up some charges on the boy, right? And they talking about how his mind is, not only with the regard to his defense, but as also to the ending of his life, right? So they're talking about his mind state. Others have written on this theme, and all without exception have touched upon the lofty style of the philosopher, which may be taken as a proof that the language used by Socrates was really of that type. So first of all, I always want to go back and see that here go the inspiration to kill this man right here. Just like, and he said, through your vindictive angels against Jehovah, these things were accomplished. What things were accomplished? What? That men, through your emissaries, inspired my chosen to be tortured and put to death. Could he have been a faithist? You dig what I'm saying? But look, watch this. Right. But none of these writers have brought out clearly the fact that Socrates had come to regard death as for himself preferable to life. And consequently, there is a just suspicion of foolhardiness in the arrogancy of his address. He was like, man, I would rather die than alive. You dig what I'm talking about? Check out Socrates' rocket. We have, however, from the lips of one of his intimate acquaintances, Hermogenes, the son of Hipponicus, an account of him which shows the high demeanor in question to have been altogether in keeping with the master's rational purpose. Hermogenes says that seeing Socrates discoursing on the very topic rather than that of his impending trial, he roundly put it to him whether he ought not to be debating the line of his defense. So he like, they like, dog, man, don't you think you should be worried about, what's going on and all that? Look what Socrates cite to him. To which Socrates, in the first instance, answered, what do I seem to you to have spent my whole life in meditating my defense? And when Hermogenes asked him how, he added, by a lifelong persistence in doing nothing wrong. I was living to my highest light. And that I take to be the finest practice for his defense which a man could devise. I ain't did nothing. By a lifelong persistence in doing nothing wrong, and that I take to be the finest practice for his defense which a man could devise. Presently, reverting to the topic, Hermogenes demanded, do you not see, Socrates, how often Athenian juries are constrained by arguments to put quite innocent people to death, and not less often to acquit the guilty, either through some touch of pity excited by the pleadings, or that the defendant had skill to turn some charming phrase? Thus appealed to Socrates, replied, nay, solemnly I tell you, twice already I have essayed to consider my defense, and twice the divinity hinders me. And the remark of Hermogenes is, that is strange. He answered, strange do you call it? Watch what he said. Strange do you call it that to God it should seem better for me to die at once? Do you not know that up to this moment I would not concede to any man to have lived a better life than I have? So he's saying, you think it's weird for God to call me at once? Why? Shouldn't he want to call me first? He said, I will not concede that no man has ever lived as holy or lived a better life than I have. Nobody. He convinced. Right? He said, so basically he's saying, shit, God should want me. It'd be better for me to die at once. Don't you get it? This is what he's saying. Since what can exceed the pleasure which has been mine of knowing that my whole life has been spent wholly and justly. And indeed, this verdict of self-approval I found re-echoed in the opinion which my friends and intimates have formed concerning me. And now, if my age is to be prolonged, let me get this. Now, and if my age is still to be prolonged, I know that I cannot escape paying the penalty of old age, and increasing dimness of sight and dullness of hearing. I shall find myself slower to learn new lessons and apter to forget the lessons I have learned. And if to these be added the consciousness of failing powers. So if I see that I'm dulling, you dig what I'm talking about? Not only is age just, it is what it is. It's the penalty of old age, like he said. You dig what I'm talking about? But if he's saying, if I add to that the knowing that I see my powers failing, you dig what I'm talking about? The stench of self-reproach. What prospect have I of any further joy in living? He's saying, man, I didn't did it. And if I'm gonna sit here idly by and try to put together a fake story to save my life, man, I did it for what? There is no better life than what I lived. You see what he's saying? And he's saying, I would rather not grow old and die. If I know that this is what's coming, let me go and get on my journey now. I ain't scared. Before I sit here and try to mealy mouth my way and gum bump my way up out of a situation that I ain't even caused and I'm not even trying to duck because I didn't do nothing. He said, just so I can live a couple years? Nigga, I'm already old. I'm not going to betray myself and what's going on and what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Just to get a couple more years so I can see myself fade into oblivion, go into senility. Become senile and I see myself doing it? No. Right? He said, and if to these be added the consciousness of failing powers, the sting of self-reproach, I prospect, what have I of any further joy in living? May it be you, joy in living. It may be, he added, that God, out of his great kindness, is intervening in my behalf to suffer me to close my life in the rightness of age and by the gentlest of death. For if at this time sentence of death be passed upon me, it is plain I shall be allowed to meet at end which, in the opinion of those who have studied the matter, is not only the easiest in itself, but one which will cause the least trouble to one's friends. While engendering the deepest longing for the departed, for of necessity he will only be thought of with regret and longing, who leaves nothing behind unseemly or discomfortable to haunt the imagination of those behind him, but sound of body and his soul still capable of friendly repose fades tranquilly away. Boy, he not scared of nothing. No doubt, he added, the gods were right in opposing me at that time, touching the inquiry, what I was to say in my defense. When you all thought the great thing, when you all thought the great thing was to discover some means of acquittal, since had I effected that, it is clear I should have prepared for myself, not that surcease from life which is in store for me anon, but to end my days wasted by disease or by old age, on which a confluent stream of evil things most alien to joyousness converges. So what he's saying is, he says, when y'all thought that I should be thinking up some means to get up off of this shit, he said I had already affected that. It was clear to him that he should just prepare himself, not to live a couple more years, wasted by disease, or like he says, or by old age, right? On which a confluent stream of things most alien to joyousness is converged. So he's talking about pain, hurt, disease. He's at all these things, aging. You dig what I'm talking about? Knowing that you're aging, you know, these are things, you know, he sees as you know, end to joy. You see what I'm saying? He see them as an end to joy. So, like I was saying, these are the things that have been done over the years by the false gods. Right? Let me get back. Let me get back. Let me get back to where, right here, verse 4. When my angels taught man by inspiration that the earth was round instead of flat, you sent spirits of darkness to inspire the death of my philosophers. Let me see if I can blow that up a little bit. Because in truth, hold on, let me get a little something in the background real quick, just a little bit. All right. Because in truth, my inspiration did not agree with your sacred books. So why is you killing these people? When my angels taught man by inspiration that the earth was round instead of flat, you sent spirits of darkness to inspire the death of my philosophers. Because in truth, my inspiration did not agree with your sacred books, which you compounded for your own glory. Yes, you palmed off your compilations from other false gods as being Jehovah's, and you played upon the honest innocence of man's understanding, contrary to the will of the Almighty. You have held up your sacred books. This is your Tanakh. This is your Septuagint. This is your Taoism. This is your Mahabharata, your Bhagavad Gita. These are your Book of Coming by Day. These are your Anunnaki tales. You held up these sacred books and said, here is the ultimate. Beyond this, no man shall go. Same thing said about Bible. Same thing said about Quran. And you knew all the while that any fixed revelation could not be true. Boom. Because all the universe is in constant progress. But they knew this. And you learn this to be true when you learn the timetables of prophecy. That a prophecy can be changed or averted to an extent. You have held up your own sacred books and said, here are the rules and a sure guide to reach the all highest heavens. Is that not what's being said? As a matter of fact, in the Bible, it say heaven gonna come to you. That's crazy. Create a gang. We know we up out of here, up and out. knowing all the while that your heavens were the lowest of the bound heavens of earth. Now, behold, the same rules applied to you as to the least of Jehovah's children, which are that whoever sets up a mark with himself as the highest, right? Buddha, Brahma, Allah, Christ, Jesus, that whoever sets up a mark with himself as the highest, and he, the interpreter of it, is already on a downward grade. Now behold, let's go back and read that one more time. The same rules apply to you as to the least of Jehovah's children, which are that whoever sets up a mark with himself as the highest, and he is the interpreter of it, is already on the downward grade. So what he's basically saying is, for all y'all niggas who set up these doctrines, y'all already false. So anybody who following this false God's doctrine, you false by default. It ain't even your fault. And they still would rather be duped. But look what it says. And whoever seeks to glorify himself by his kingdoms, ain't that what your God do? Say he got many mansions and kingdoms and all this bullshit? True God don't big up his kingdom. He had to be told to tell you about how his kingdoms run. Jehovah told him to tell you in the WASP how the heavens work. But whoever seeks to glorify himself by his kingdoms, by these heavenly kingdoms, or by the magnificence of his possessions, takes a burden upon his shoulders that will sooner or later fall upon him and crush him. And whoever fortifies himself by armies, whether in the heavens or, excuse me, y'all, hold on one second.
And oh yeah, put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feel it when you feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you breathing rarefied air, oh,
it's that Japheth, that Chow Mein, that Papabull, that Tao Mein, since sunset in the arc of Wayne. My brain moving like Tao Sang, so as above, it's so below. That up and that down thing, this flow is atmospheric. I call that a ground game. See, water is knowledge, so if I'm teaching, you're learning. So how your God make a sun without vortexing and current? See the pattern is ponic, I'm reaching out for my people. Oh, watch me flow through your speakers.